Hi, this is Richard Dunn at Evoca. In this little video I'm going to show you how to recreate the effect of fire giving off a flickering light. This can be achieved by using what's called a light function, which is a material moving across the light surface. If you were to draw some shapes into a piece of cardboard and put a torch behind that cardboard and shine it onto a wall, you would see the light in that shape being cast onto the wall. And that's basically what we're doing here, except the piece of cardboard is continually moving past the light. So it gives us uneven brightnesses in the light. So what we're going to do to achieve this is, first of all, we're going to bring in a light. So we need to open up the content browser here. And we need to go into actor classes. And what we're going to do is we're just going to add a light into the scene. So we're going to come down, we're going to look for lights. We're going to come down to point lights, and we're going to grab a toggleable light. We're going to select that, and we're just going to drag that into the scene. And as you can see, straight away, that light is emitting. As you can see, we have light shadow being cast on the tree. As soon as it goes below the ground, it gets all funky. Now, by default, as you can see, this light isn't flickering. We are on real-time preview. So what we need to do is we need to double click this light to bring up its properties. I'll just bring those in onto the screen. And you can see here that we have a radius. Now lights generally from a fire aren't very broad in the distance they cover, so we're just going to bring that down a little bit. And we're going to bring the brightness right up, and we're going to change the color of the light to something a bit more fire-like. So I'm just going to bring this over to the side so you can actually see what we're doing here. Let's just bring this light over to the tree. And we're just going to make this an orange color. So as you can see now, we're getting a colored light that is close to a fire color. This can be tweaked. And in here we see light function. Now, what we need to do to create a place to put this in, there's actually nowhere to plug in a light. If you used a static light, when you click this blue button, nothing will happen. You'll get this light function, and when you click it, nothing will happen. Because we're using a toggleable, we've now got a slot to put in a material, which is great. And as you can see now, our light is casting orange light. We could probably go a little bit bigger with the radius, somewhere there. That looks good. So the next thing we want to do is we want to create a texture for our material. So what we need to do is open up Photoshop. Now there's a little trick to this sort of thing that I want to share with you. When you're creating a noise texture in Photoshop, the noise, or the amount of noise, or the frequency of the noise is completely dependent on the resolution of the image. So we're going to make two textures here. One is wrong and one is right way. We're going to start with the wrong one first so I can show you what not to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new texture. We're going to make it, say, 512 by 512. And we need to make sure that our colors are black and white. And we'll just bucket fill that. And we're going to go filter, render clouds. And that's what we're going to get. And that's fine. We can now save that out. Let's put this in and call this our light function. We'll call this one underscore W for wrong, and we'll just save that. 24 bits. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to minimize that, and we're going to come into our editor, and we're going to open up the content browser again, and we're going to create a material for our light. So we'll come in here. Actually, first of all, let's import that texture. light function. We've got compression no alpha. It's a texture. And import. And there it is. So we'll save the package. And with that texture selected, we'll go new material. And we'll call this one light function. And we'll give it a name, torch. It's a material and it's a material flag as well for searching purposes. So we'll OK that. And right away we have our material. Now a couple of things need to be set in here first. When using a material for a light function, you need to set it as being flagged for that purpose. And right down here under mutually exclusive usage, we want to tick used as light function. And as you can see, it now only gives us an emissive output, which is what we want. So what we're going to do is just move that aside, just save our package again, drag that light function into the material editor, which I've just done off the screen. And what we're going to do is we're just going to plug that into emissive, which is now going to give us the look that we're after, but we need to move this across the surface. So we're going to press P for a panner. We're going to plug that in, and I have predetermined the settings for this to be 0.03 and 0.03. As you can see, it's now moving across the surface. And we also need to give it some UV coordinates because this isn't tiling enough. So we'll come in here and type in text coordinate, plug that in, and we're going to set that to 0.01 and minus 0.01. Actually, no, we'll just set that to 0.01. So now you can see we have light variances moving across the lens. Now, we're going to just compile that material and minimize it. What we can now do is we can apply this light function. Let's just save our package. We need to select that, and we need to come into the properties for the light. And what we're going to do is we're going to have that selected, and we're just going to load that into our source material. Now if you look at the light, you will see a very, very subtle effect of variance in lighting. Can you see that? Hopefully you can. Let's just bring the brightness up. Now you can see it's very slow, but it's there. Now, this can cause a very noticeable repetition in the pulsing of the light. So this brings us back to showing you the right way. So what we did wrong is this. Let's start that again. Let's create a new material. Let's make it 4096. Let's make it really big so we can get lots of detail in it. Filter, render clouds again, and then size it down. Let's go down to 512 and save that. And we'll just call this light function 1. And I'm just going to override that one because I've already got it. And then we're going to go back into the material. Well, actually, first of all, let's just import that first, so we've got something to work with. light function 1, compression no alpha, texture. And there it is. As you can see, there's a lot more detail in this one than this one. And all we need to do is swap this out into the material. So we'll bring up our material. Select that. So now when we apply this, as you can see, we can now minimize this because we're done with it, apart from tweaking it. We've got a pretty reasonable looking effect. Now at the moment it looks a bit strange. So what we're going to do is shut this, and we're going to bring in one of our torches that we've made. So let's grab our particle system and drag it into the scene. And just another little tip that I'd like to share with you, instead of having to drag and drag like this and maneuver, what we can do is hold down Shift, and as we move, the camera comes with it. Takes a bit of getting used to, but it's actually really handy. Now of course we don't have the torch attached to this at the moment, but this could quite easily be a campfire. So let's bring this light over here where we're working. And let's just go into top view. It's a bit hard to see, but we could probably go into wireframe. There we go. Now we can see our light and we can see where our emitter is. Now let's just put the light over the middle of the emitter. And there we have the effect of the fire working on its surroundings by providing an artificial light source. Now we could do the same thing here. If we were doing this as a torch, we could select the light, the particle effect and the geometry attached to that, and we could prefab it like we did earlier. Just make sure that you have all the assets for that prefab in the one package. You need to have the model, the static mesh, you need to have the material for that static mesh and its textures, and the light material, the light function, and the particle and all its textures and materials in the one package for a prefab to work solidly and not break on you. So that's how we can add the effect of light to a fire, and that's a pretty standard type of situation. We can even apply a light function like this to the sun. If the sun is a dominant directional light, and let's see if it is. Let's just shut all these windows. If we come in here to scene and we have our dominant directional light, it's not in this case. If this was made into a movable light by converting it, we could assign the same thing as this, a panning noise texture. And what that will do is simulate the effect of clouds casting shadow on the landscape and continually moving across the landscape, and it's a very cheap effect. So light functions have a huge part to play with particles. UDK is the last generation of this engine to do this. Newer generations now enable the light to be emitted from the actual particle, so the light is actually there. But there are advantages to having the light available as a separate entity. So hopefully that demonstrates what a light function is and how to use it to your advantage. Feel free to make some logs, create a campfire, or do whatever you want to do there. That's really all there is to it. So in the next video we're going to move away from fire now, and we're going to start talking about some other environmental effects such as snow and rain. Thank you.